Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In this session we'll be discussing from 18th verse of the first chapter of the first canto Srimad-Bhagavatam. The 18th verse is Athakhyahi Harer Dhiman Avatara Katha Shubhaha Leela Vidadhata Swairam Ishwarasya Atma Mayaya. The meaning of this verse: O wise Suta, the sages of Naimisharanya are addressing Suta Goswami and they are telling, O wise Suta, please narrate to us the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Godhead's multi-incarnations. Such auspicious adventures and pastimes of the Lord, the Supreme Controller, are performed by His internal powers. Atma Mayaya. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that for the creation, maintenance and destruction of the material worlds, the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead Himself appears in many thousands of forms of incarnations. And the specific adventures found in those transcendental forms are all auspicious. The activities of the Supreme Lord are not performed under the external energy. They are under the internal potency. What's the difference? External potency is material and internal potency is spiritual. So all the activities of the Supreme Lord, whether in the material world or in the spiritual world, everywhere it is on the spiritual plane, spiritual platform, under the protection or shelter of the internal potency, spiritual potency. And therefore, it is described here, the specific adventures found in those transcendental forms are all auspicious. Avatara Katha Shubhaha. They are all auspicious. Simply by hearing them, simply by reading about them, simply by describing them, simply by remembering them, simply by being present when those activities are being performed by the Lord, everyone is spiritually benefited. The devotees, all the persons who are in any of these ways, they are spiritually benefited. It brings in all auspiciousness. Both those who are present during such activities and those who hear the transcendental narrations of such activities are benefited. Here, specifically for our benefit, the sages of Naimisharanya are requesting Suta Goswami to narrate these transcendental pastimes. 19th verse. Vayam tu na vitrupyama uttama shloka vikrame yat shrunvatam rasajnanam swadu swadu pade pade. The meaning of this verse is, we never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. That's the nature of transcendental pastimes of the Lord. One never becomes tired of hearing such descriptions. The reason is explained in the next part of the translation. the second half. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with him relish hearing of his pastimes at every moment. Those who have developed a taste. Here the words used are swadu, swadu, pade pade, at every step. They relish hearing about the pastimes. Always it is relishable, because they have a taste, developed a taste for such transcendental relationships with him. Many times you would have heard that each one of us, we have a very, very specific spiritual relationship with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this relationship is one of devotional service. It's a relationship of devotional service. And in such relationship, there is always reciprocation from the Supreme Lord. He is very active in such relationships. Of course, the Supreme Lord is active on the spiritual platform, not on the material platform. He has nothing to do with the material platform. He is completely aloof from the material platform. This material platform is only for the sake of the conditioned souls, those who are desirous of material enjoyment, those who desire to forget Krishna, be independent of Krishna. So for such people, the material platform is available. Otherwise, the Supreme Lord, his pure devotees, are all on the spiritual plane, spiritual platform. They have nothing to do with the material plane. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, there is a great difference between mundane stories, fiction, history, etc., and the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. There's a big difference between the two. What is the difference? The histories of the whole universe contain references to the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord. So, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are completely ever fresh. The example is given. For example, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata and the Puranas are histories of bygone ages, recorded in connection with the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord. Always there is a connection with the Lord, Supreme Lord, in his various incarnations. The histories are recorded in such itihasas and Puranas, which are histories. In spite of repeated reading, the subject matter remains ever fresh. It does not become boring. It does not become hackneyed. So this is the difference in the quality between the descriptions of narrations of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord and ordinary narrations of mundane history. Mundane history, it is under the external energy. All the activities that are performed in this world are under the external energy. So what is there in the external energy? Punah punah charvita charvanana. There is only repeated chewing the chewed. That which has no rasa, that which has no substance, simply keep on discussing or describing the same thing again and again. So, this essential difference is there between the transcendental narratives and the ordinary narratives. There is a difference. Another example, Srila Prabhupada gives, anyone may read Bhagavad Gita or Srimad-Bhagavatam repeatedly throughout his whole life and yet find in them new light of information. See? Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, those who are regularly reading, they have this experience. Keep on reading again and again and again. It's vast literature, but still, even after one finishes reading once, when you take up a second time the reading, or a third time, or a fourth time, you always find new light of information. That is because inherent in the description is the freshness of such narrations about the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord being absolute, He is fully present in the narration of His pastimes. He is fully present. He is seated in our heart. He is present in the narrative of the Ramayana or the Mahabharata or the Bhagavad Gita. He is present in those descriptions. And He is always a living person. He is always a living person. And He is interacting with every jiva. He is very, very anxious to get us out of this material entanglement. He wants us to go back to Godhead, to His personal abode. So He is transcendentally always active. So therefore, these narrations are not ordinary words. These descriptions are not ordinary words. Anybody who sincerely makes an attempt to read such literature describing the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, they will find in it something which is very interesting, something which is very, very informative, something which is full of dynamism. Prabhupada also says here, mundane news is static, whereas transcendental news is dynamic. Inasmuch as the spirit is dynamic and matter is static. Matter is dead. Spirit is always living. Even though the body appears to be living, actually it is the body which is, body is a dead body. It's not really living. It appears like a living body only because of the presence of the spirit soul. As soon as the spirit soul leaves the body, this body is a dead body. Sometimes people think, maybe something is missing, some chemical is missing, or some organ of the body is failing. But that's not the real reason why a living body, so-called living body, becomes a dead body. It is clearly explained in the Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna Himself that when the spirit soul leaves the body, that is when the body becomes a dead body. So spirit is dynamic, matter is static. Now, those who have developed a taste for understanding the transcendental subject matter are never tired of hearing such narrations. Here the sages are telling, Vayam tu na vitrupyama uttama shloka vikrame. We are never tired of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of God. There is a rasa in that hearing. There is a special taste. Of course, those who are not accustomed to hear, they have to develop this taste, but it is a matter of purification of our contaminated consciousness. As long as the consciousness is contaminated, there may be some attraction or interest in some ordinary, mundane news, mundane activities, mundane material things. There may be some attraction. But it doesn't last. That is experience of every person. It doesn't last. So what is really attractive, Prabhupada gives a very nice example in the Krishna book. He says, a living person will decorate his body, clean his body, keep his body in good, healthy condition. Now, why does he do it? What is the impetus for a person to maintain his body? It is because within the body, the spirit soul is part of the supreme, most attractive, transcendental Lord Krishna. Because of the presence of that part of Krishna within the body, therefore there is interest in maintaining this body. Otherwise, as soon as the spirit soul leaves the body, nobody is interested in the body. Everybody wants to just throw it, discard it. No more interest. The same body, no more interest. So, now why then, we may go one step further and say, why is that spirit soul taking interest in maintaining the body? Because the spirit soul is a part of the Supreme Spirit, Krishna. And Krishna is all attractive. Krishna is full of rasa. Krishna is full of life. Krishna is full of activities. Krishna is full of dynamism. That's why the attraction. Krishna is all attractive. The name Krishna means all attractive. He is attractive to everyone. To everyone, without exception. When Krishna plays on his flute, everyone in the whole universe is attracted. Everyone in the whole universe. This was demonstrated by Krishna when he appeared in Vrindavan. He would play on his flute and the whole of Vrindavan, everybody becomes absorbed in hearing that wonderful, melodious music generated by Krishna's playing on the flute. So without exception, the birds, the insects, the trees, the water of river Yamuna, then the covered boys, the covered girls, the covered men, the covered women, the cows, the calves, everyone is attracted by the melodious sound of Krishna's playing the flute. That is called all attractive. Krishna, all attractive. So he is all attractive. Therefore, everyone is interested in Krishna. But then, when we are forgetful of Krishna in this material world, under the clutches of Maya, that is when we become we are out of touch with Krishna. We are out of touch with Krishna, and then we are unable to hear. When Krishna plays on the flute, we are unable to hear because that's on the spiritual platform. And we are trapped in the material modes, so we are unable to perceive that spiritual sound. But it is possible to revive our spiritual relationship with Krishna and the connection with Krishna by the spiritual method of chanting and hearing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Our bhakti is awakened. Our remembrance of Krishna is awakened. So that happens. Very naturally it will happen.